you for joining us today. We're going to have a conversation about Lent and Ash Wednesday. I'm Mary Beth Hammett, the Children's Ministry Director at Christ, and I have two friends with me today. This is Collier Cowan and Riley Wilson with us today to join the conversation. So thanks for joining us. Well, guys, today we're going to talk about Ash Wednesday and Lent.
So what is Ash Wednesday?
That's a great question, Collier. Ash Wednesday is that Wednesday that starts the Lenten season when we're getting ready for Easter.
What is Lent?
Well, great question, Riley. Lent is that season before Easter happens. It's a word that's a long time ago called Lenten, which means spring season. And it's that time frame that we're getting ready for Easter. You know, if you remember at Christmas time, we have Advent. Remember the Advent calendar, the Advent candles. Advent means waiting. So we're waiting for Jesus to be born. We're waiting for Christmas. And so we do all these things to get ready for Christmas. Well, Lent is kind of the same idea, except it's in the spring and we're getting ready for what happens at Easter. What's Easter about?
God rising from the dead?
Yeah, God raised him from the dead.
Him to die on the cross and then come back again.
Right, absolutely. And so that's sort of a sad time and a happy time, both together, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So the Lent season, sort of that we do both of those things. Some of those things we talk about things that are sad, and we talk about things that are great and celebratory. So the Ash Wednesday is all about remembering what Jesus is going to do for us and asking for forgiveness. In the Old Testament, when people were sad and were sorry for what they did, they put ashes all over them to show that they were sad. So Ash Wednesday is sort of that idea, when you put the ashes on your forehead, you're reminded that Jesus died so we could be forgiven. You remember where the ashes came from?
Weren't they from Palm Sunday you burned up the palm leaves?
Right, absolutely, yes. Remember last Palm Sunday, we had palms and we celebrated Jesus' entry into Jerusalem. Well, at the end of that, we burned those palm branches, and that's where our ashes come from, to help us remember that Jesus is dying for us so we can be forgiven for our sins. So it all connects back to each other. You guys have any other questions about Lent and Ash Wednesday?
Why do they put it in a cross?
Well, they put the ashes in a cross because Jesus died on the cross, didn't he?
Yes.
And so when they do that on our forehead with the ashes, that helps us remember what Jesus did and how much he loves us. And that's just a remembrance kind of a thing.
Did they do it back then?
Well, they've done this for a long, long time. And when they started to do this type of celebration, that's what they did, because they were remembering that Jesus died on the cross. Yeah, they did it in the form of a cross. What happens if you see someone who's already had the ashes on their forehead, a lot of the times after you've worn them for a little bit, the cross kind of disintegrates, so it looks like a dot. But it starts off as a cross to help us remember.
I had one question, but then with that explanation, you kind of answered it.
Okay, well, what was your question?
It was what are the ashes for?
Okay, all right. They're a remembrance. It's to help us remember that we do things wrong, and we have to ask God to forgive us, and that he has forgiven us because he died for us and rose again.
Why do you guys put it on your heads in crosses?
Well, the cross helps us remember that Jesus died on the cross for us, and
so
that
is
forgiveness.
that what the people back then did? They put it on their head with a cross,
Well, that started a long time ago, and they used the sign of the cross to just help them remember that Jesus died on the cross for our forgiveness. Oh, good questions, guys. Thank you so much. Now, I have a little Lenten calendar that I've gotten ready for your families. And it's online, or they can pick it up when they come on Ash Wednesday. But it has things on here, just like the Advent calendar did, to do each day to help us remember what God has done for us. Like the first one, talk about what the ashes mean on Ash Wednesday. Write 10 things that you're grateful for. So being thankful and grateful is important during this time frame. Also during Lent, people talk about giving things up for Lent. Remember, way back in the first of the New Testament, when we're talking about Jesus, before he starts his ministry, he went to the desert and fasted and prayed for how many days?
40.
40 days. You can't give up eating for 40 days totally, but you might could give up something for 40 days. And when you're not doing whatever you're giving up, you can be thinking or praying to God. I know that a couple years ago, a couple of our kids gave up video games. And the time that they spent playing video games, they either read their Bible or they did something for someone else. A couple years ago, I gave up chocolate. Because I love chocolate. And I didn't eat chocolate from Ash Wednesday to Easter. And every time I thought about chocolate, I prayed. So I prayed a lot between Ash Wednesday and Easter. You can also add to. It's not just about taking away. One year I added to my schedule in my life to write a card to someone each day. So I had 40 cards that I mailed out to a different person, one a day. So it was either someone who I knew was having a hard time, it was a note of encouragement, sent a card to somebody I hadn't seen in a long time, it was a thinking of you card. So it could be a number of things. And this calendar gives you a little bit of help on some things you can do. All right? So you can do it as a family, you can do it as an individual, however you want to do that. Okay, that sort of helps us stay on track during this time frame of Lent. Any other questions you might have? No? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see each of you and all our other friends before too long. So I hope you have a wonderful Easter time, but also a meaningful Lenten time.